Hello, I'm Jenny Rake Morona. I'm one of the clergy affiliated with the community at Emmanuel Presbyterian Church in Tacoma, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this midweek meditation for the week of July 27th. I'd encourage you to take a look at Emmanuel's website for a whole host, a wide variety of ways that you can connect with this vibrant community of faith in the coming weeks. Today, I'm especially glad to welcome students from the University of the Puget Sound who may be joining us in this meditation time as I offer some poetry that will help us to find resources of hope and courage during times of uncertainty, loss, and grief. Many of you know that I spent most of my career in ministry as a hospice spiritual counselor or chaplain. What I learned as I accompanied others through times of loss is that grief itself can heal us. It can help us to grow as we mourn, as we allow our love for the one who has died to be transformed into a new kind of love for life itself. And so into love and deepening compassion for ourselves and for others, indeed for the whole world. Everything that I have ever read about grief or heard from others about their grief, and now a year or so into my own grieving, is that hope and courage seem to go hand in hand in this process of transformation. It takes courage and hope to face times of great uncertainty, and it takes a kind of faith that is more of a verb than a noun, active, seeking, trusting, working faith. Senator John Lewis, who died on July 17th, offered us such a remarkable example of what it means to remain hope-filled and courageous and to stay the course over a lifetime of struggle for justice. Listening to stories about his life prompted me to think about the ways we can nourish ourselves now for the journey we're on as a community of faith and as a nation, and also as individuals who, in the midst of this COVID pandemic time and in the midst of the surge in urgency in the work of racial justice, we as individuals are also facing life-changing moments, losses, challenges of our own in our personal lives. So I was wondering about what those resources are. What resources do we have to nourish our hope, our courage, and our faith? And certainly in this community, we know that poetry is one such resource, as are great novels, biographies of people like John Lewis himself, and of course the stories and poetry of our spiritual and religious traditions. It occurs to me that you might decide to use these poems that I'll share with you now for Lectio Divina or Camino Divina in the coming week, reflecting on the phrases that shimmer for you and what the Spirit might be inviting you to with these words. I hope you will find comfort in the poems I've chosen, but not only comfort, I hope you will also find a source of resolute hope and lasting courage and active working faith as a verb for the road ahead. The first poem is called The Thing Is, and it's by Ellen Bass. While this poem seems really to be about an individual life, it's not hard to imagine all of us corporately setting our hearts and minds to the promise to love this difficult life again. To love life, to love it even when you have no stomach for it and everything you've held dear crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weights you like your own flesh, only more of it, an obesity of grief, you think, how can a body withstand this? And then you hold life like a face between your palms, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. The Thing Is by Ellen Bass. The next poem I've chosen was written in 2013. It's called Beginners by Denise Levertov. And while it was written 7 years ago or so, it speaks directly to the heart of 2020. Beginners. From too much love of living, hope and desire set free, even the weariest river winds somewhere to the sea. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. How can desire fail? We've only begun to imagine justice and mercy, only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower and not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended, too much hurt we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gestures. So much is in bud. Denise Levertov, Beginners. The third poem was new to me just a couple of years ago, was a gift to me in a poem given in a little booklet prepared by the community at Emmanuel when I went on sabbatical. And it was in a section of that book called Death in Daily Life. It's by Anne Porter, it was written in 2006. It's called Leave Taking. Nearing the start of that mysterious last season, which brings us close to the other four, I'm somewhat afraid and don't know how to prepare, so I will praise you. I will praise you for the glaze of buttercups and for the pearly scent of white, fresh water and the great crossbow shapes of swans flying over with that strong silken threshing sound of wings which you gave them when you made them without wings, without voices. With that strong silken threshing sound of wings which you gave them when you made them without voices. And I will praise you for crickets on starry autumn nights when the earth is cooling, their rusty, diminutive music, repeated over and over, is the very marrow of peace. And I praise you for crows calling from treetops, the speech of my village, and for the sparrow's flash of song, flinging me in an instant the joy of a child who woke each morning to the freedom of her mother's unclouded love and lived in it like a country. And I praise you that from vacant lots, from only broken glass and candy wrappers, you raise up the blue chicory flowers. I thank you for that secret praise which burns in every creature and I ask you to bring us to life out of every sort of death, and teach us mercy. That's Leave Taking by Anne Porter. And finally, this blessing from Jan Richardson, included in a book of blessings written and compiled after her own husband's death, speaks again to the hope that new life comes out of every little and every big death, and that we can again and again embrace and be embraced by new life. It's called The Blessing of Hope, and it comes from her book, The Cure for Sorrow. The Blessing of Hope. So may we know the hope that is not just for someday, but for this day, here, now, in this moment that opens to us. Hope not made of wishes, but of substance. Hope made of sinew and muscle and bone. Hope that has breath and a beating heart. Hope that will not keep quiet and be polite. Hope that knows how to holler when it is called for. Hope that knows how to sing when there seems little cause. Hope that raises us from the dead, not someday, but this day, every day, again and again and again. That's Jan Richardson's Blessing of Hope, found in The Cure for Sorrows. I'm so thankful for the words of these faithful women, crafters of literature that is sacred by virtue of the fact that it points us to a place where our lives intersect with the divine life in the world. I'm happy to offer these to you today as a gift. And so may we find comfort, the hope and the courage we need for the living of these days and for the work that lies ahead. Be well, and so may it be.